Working on the boat motor again here. We got back from the trip and been saving this for probably now. But this steering arm is pretty bad. We've just been using it slow speed. The fear is this side's especially bad. It's actually, you can kind of see like a hole developing up in there. So the fear being that if that let go at high speed, the torque of the propeller and the motor spinning would push it one way or the other, whatever way it favors, and then the boat would, could throw you out. So it's a danger, in my eyes anyway. Problem is, to get at this, from what I've read online, is you're supposed to take the power head off, and I ain't doing that. At least I'm gonna try not to. However, I think those 2 bolts there and these 4 down here on either side, 2 on either side, is the only real thing holding the motor to whatever you call this. So if I undo these 4 bolts and they don't break, and I drop the lower unit so that the shifting linkage rod is out of the center of the steering shaft, conceivably, I don't see why it wouldn't allow me to separate the motor from this in the air. And then once I can get that up in the air and moved out of the way, then conceivably, I know there's a nut on the bottom of this thing, I should be able to pull it straight out. But it all hinges on if these nuts in here, those bolts, are frozen. So I'm gonna get a breaker bar on them and feel them out and see. I've been soaking that with PB Blaster, and see if I can get these out without breaking any of them. Because if I can do that, I think that's the hardest part. These, I actually feel better about those than these. But so anyway, let's throw a breaker bar on it and see if it will start to come off. Oh yeah, got 1 out, and it was pretty corroded. I don't know, what is that white stuff? Is it aluminum dust or something? I don't know. But I used the breaker bar just to barely get it twisting, and then I went, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, slowly until it started getting back a few threads, and then I was able to go, further left, a little right, further left, a little right, further left, and then eventually all left, and it's out. But it's pretty beat up. You see the edges are like paddle wheeled over from that, so I think I'm gonna need new hardware. But let's see if this second one will start to loosen up like that. Got the second one out. I'm trying to get at least one of them, probably the one I cleaned up, back in, and I'm gonna work on the next side because I don't want all of the weight unsupported. But 2 for 2 so far. 4 more to go. Man, look at all that corrosion. I wonder how the threads are inside. All this powder. Slowly progressing. I got this one coming out fairly easy, so I'm confident that one's going to come out. This one's seized, so I'm going to move on from him. I'll let him sit. I'll probably get some maybe heat in here and see if I can't coax that one out. But it looks like I got 3 of the 4 out. This one may break. We'll see. I'm going to go ahead and start to loosen up these and see if these will start to come out. And if so, what I'm going to do next, you can't see it, is take this back plate off since it's all cracked on one side. So I'll remove that, see what's behind there, and then I'm going to drop the lower unit off. But for now, we're just going to see if we can crack loose these bolts on either side. So it's not going perfectly, but it's going decent. I was able to get this bolt coming out, and it doesn't feel like it's gonna jam up and freeze solid. This one though, as soon as I started twisting, look at how thin that was. It's just barely on there. So as soon as I start trying to loosen it, the whole end piece starts to twist. So I don't know if there's something else, like the motor mount on this side is also gone. I'm gonna try to rig up a way to get an impact on that and see if I can get that out. Protect your eyes with the phone. You know what I mean? All right, is it recording? Mm-hmm. All right, so I gotta try to get it bigger. Get it soft for a second.
Yep.
All right, so here's the plan. I'm gonna take my grinding wheel here, and as soon as I torque down on this, it just broke. It's paper thin. So I'm just gonna zip off a little bit of the extra meat here to give me enough clearance to hopefully just unscrew it right out. It looks like you can stop it. Well, all right, good news and bad news. Good news, got it out. The bad news is the bolt broke. However, two things. Look at how paper thin. That's how it sat in the motor like that. Just nothing left. I'm glad I'm doing this because this would kill someone if it let go. But the bolt broke off, and that doesn't look like a new brake to me. So I don't know if this is broken before. How could that be? In either case, the other side's coming out, and it looks like I can grab onto that with some vice grips if I get this plating out of the way. And so hope is not lost on that bolt. I might be able to recover it and get it out. But currently, everything's loose except for this one. This one's good news. I threw some heat on it and more back and forth, and I was able to start to get that bolt out. So it looks like I'll be able to remove those two remaining bolts down here and get it out. So what I did next, I was able to get that cowling off, this front cowling here. And there was just two bolts, one right there and one right here. And now this back piece should be able to come off if I undo these. From either side. All right, so with that removed from both sides, now we can see this midsection a lot clearer. I think the next step for me is, since I got these two out, the two on the other side are halfway out. This bolt on the opposite side is out. I cut it out in this. So basically it's just this bolt and the two in here that are left holding this on. The next step is to drop the lower unit, and before I do that, I need to disconnect the shift rod, which is that pin right there. And I need some needle nose to go and pull that cotter pin out, and then you can see it way back in there. That rod needs to pop out so that when I drop the lower unit, that shift rod is allowed to fall down through the tube and out. And then once that's out, then we can try to lift this whole motor assembly off once we take the bolts out. Okay, cotter pin is out, and I was able to stick a needle nose in there as I push the shift linkage in and pop the shift, I don't know if shift linkage, whatever. This thing I was able to push in and disengage that shift linkage out of that hole. Now the important thing is you try not to get that to move much, because you got to insert it with the same number of, it's a screw down here, So it's got to be the same depth. That screw has to be the same number of threads deep so that your controls are synced up properly and you get good forward, good reverse, and not stuck halfway in between or whatever. So now that that's done, the next step is to take the lower unit off. So we have 1, 2, if I remember right, so 4 on either side, 5, and then this one, 6. And I think there's actually maybe one more underneath here. I think it's 5/16. Let's find out. Correction, 9/16 on these bolts. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start to loosen all these up a little bit and come back to the video when it's closer to being dropped. All right, there's another bolt that's up underneath this cover, hidden up top there. And I was loosening these the last 2 up and it's not dropping down, and I came in here and looked and I forgot that there's that hidden one way up in here. So I'm gonna take that out and then drop the sucker. Okay, cut the lower unit out. This came out pretty much straight, so I'm just gonna make sure that this goes back up in exactly the same orientation. Okay, well, the lower unit's off. So, if I lower this motor back on down, let me just check my thinking on this. So the power tilt and trim is connected to this back plate, which will be staying. I did one more thing before we try to lift. The trim indicator and the trim power cables ran up through the back electrical port here. I took that cap off so I could pull these out, because my plan is, once I suspend the motor, is to move it that way a little bit, that and out a little bit, and I think this will give me enough reach to get the motor off to the side and hanging while I try to pull that steering linkage out. Getting closer. I keep seeing little stuff that I forgot, so I need to disconnect the steering linkage, obviously. Duh. So it's these 2 bolts here. I got my engine hoist set up, and I just need to take this off, and then I'll be able to actually try to lift this thing. Okay, very good. I got the steering arm disconnected, so now we're ready. Got it pretty loose and semi-hanging. It seems to be, settled. So I'm gonna finish pulling that bolt out, and hopefully it'll stay in the air. I can tilt it back, get those 2 bolts out, and then catch it. Okay, the motor's resting on the top there. Both sides are free. Let's try to lift this a little bit. I need to get 2 hands, but I'm pretty close. I think I'm good. I can just kind of push it over, so I'll be right back in a second. Aha! Success. So here's that really crusty steering shaft. I mean, look how thin this side was. This side's a bit better. That's where all the strength was. This side is completely gone. I mean, look at the size of some of this corrosion. I mean, it's bad. Well, I'm glad I'm doing this. Let me disconnect my safety here, and then I'm going to trim this up, and there should be a nut on the bottom. I'm already seeing some damage though. The threads in here are pretty bad on this side. Okay, next obstacle is down here. This big rusted bolt or nut at the bottom here. I believe I need to unscrew that And then once that's out, this bracket, whatever you call it, I'm guessing will fall away, and then I'll be able to pull that old steering arm out. I'm gonna hit that with some heat. I had to go to Harbor Freight and get a jumbo set. This was the cheapest option because I'll probably run into big stuff later on in life anyway, but 1 3/4 for this sucker. And I don't have a 3/4 inch drive, so I'm gonna be adapting down to my 1/2 inch. And I'm gonna see if I can get it to move with my impact. Moment of truth. That took a whole lot of banging with a whole lot of banging with a hammer and a piece of wood, heating it up. But I think we should be able to pull it straight out. Let's see. It's coming, so close. I just need to lift this up a little bit or push it a little bit more. Lift it up a little bit. There it is. I don't see a part number anywhere. Let's see how long this is. $15 1/4. All right, the part that's being shown, here are the measurements and all the pictures. That all looks fine. Pictures anyway. Okay, one last objective here is to get this bolt out. So I have two plans. One will involve welding a new nut on here to get a wrench and try to pull it out that way. I had to use both hands, but I was able to try and weld a nut on. I don't know, looks pretty crappy though. We'll see if it bites. Holy crap, it seems to be working. Let's see if I can pull it all the way out. Excellent. Cheap Harbor Freight welder. It's the second time it's rescued me. Cool.